what is a no-brainer move you think should be made this offseason? Doesn't have to do with Sam Darnold or the Jets.
This is an incredible segue for Bucky Brooks and myself as it pertains to this program. I think the Jets is a no-brainer. They have to keep Sam Darnold.
Complete opposite take.
Complete opposite. Hold the line. And I've said this before, it's very stressful. It's very intimidating that the English army and cavalry is charging. You got to hold those spears, and you got to wait and hold and go with Sam Darnold. I believe in Sam Darnold as a player, as a talent. I know it's been a terrible, terrible run. I think you take that number 2 pick and, oh, baby, do you sell it for the world for some super parched, no-option team who's in love with Zach Wilson and doesn't have a Sam Darnold talent, doesn't have another guy they drafted that high and wants you to give you an irresponsible price for it. For anyone thinking, I know Sam Darnold doesn't have it, maybe, maybe not. Did you think definitely that the Dolphins should keep Ryan Tannehill back in the day? No. Because maybe then it is a product of Adam Gase, and you go with that theory. The only guy that Sam Darnold has played under in the NFL is Adam Gase, and he has not thrived, and he's been sick, and it's been weird, and I still believe in it. I think you already have the 23 pick in this draft. You take the 2, you could have 3 first-round picks. What's a better option? The Jets with Sam Darnold and, like, amazing talent sprinkled all over the field on offense and defense around him,
right.
Or the Jets with Deshaun Watson and nothing. I'm going to go with Sam Darnold. I'm going to believe in it. I'm going to go with the talent they could add. I'm going to hold the line. I think it's the Jets and Darnold.
I'll push back just for the sake of what we're doing. Bucky Brooks makes his take. What if Zach Wilson is that good and he's better than Sam Darnold? And you watch him and you meet him and you're blown away. Is it not imprudent to not just take the best quarterback that you see in prospect and knowing that you hope to never have the number 2 overall pick again, right? Like, even if they trade all these picks, if Darnold doesn't deliver, you're never going to be up high as 2 again. What if you fall in love with Wilson?
Well, Peter, you say that a lot. You're not up. The Jets are up there a lot. Some teams are. And I think your point brings up something this time of year. These picks and these prospects are pixie dust. Half of them are going to be terrible. I hate to say that, and I hope I'm wrong, but Zach Wilson, this is the guy. This guy from BYU is going to change the sport. There's a very good likelihood that he's average and decent only. I'm going to take Sam Darnold, who I think is more talented than Zach Wilson and played at a better, higher level of college football. I'm still going to go with it.
I love it. That's a take.
I know.
And I'll give you one right now that's very polarizing. You know, we were talking about Harry and Meghan in their interview, and that's a very polarizing topic. No name in the NFL gets people juiced up more than Odell Beckham. And if you if you mention Odell Beckham and you say it that I don't think Odell's that good, or I think Odell's toxic, there is an army of Odell people who will say, well, that's not fair to Odell, or wait a second, Odell Beckham makes $15 million at wide receiver right now for a Cleveland Browns team that has to cut a lot of salary cap space and also has a $14 million receiver in Jarvis Landry. Cleveland Browns went to the playoffs without Odell Beckham on their roster November, December, January. I think the no-brainer move is to start calling the Cleveland Browns if you are an Odell Beckham fan. I'm not saying it's a no-brainer for Cleveland to get rid of him, but I would not be shocked if the Cleveland Browns got an offer. They wouldn't say, you know what, we have to make this work. We can't make this work anymore. Like, the contract is just too much, and let's get something for him while we can before he walks out the door in 2 years, or if he's not what he is and returning from the ACL. Burleson, I point to you. You have been an Odell Beckham supporter since day one of our show, through thick and thin. I tend to agree with you that the drama and the dramatics around him were a little much hyperbole here in New York, and maybe it was unfairly drawn, but $15 million, this is the exact price range of what I'm talking about when I'm saying there's going to be a bloodbath over the next few weeks in the NFL. An NFL wide receiver making that much money when you have another one making that much money, and there's a salary cap that's $20 million less. Oof. I wonder if a team calls up Cleveland and says, we'll give you a second-round pick for Odell Beckham, if they would listen right now. I think there's going to be some people calling about Odell, and I wouldn't be shocked if Odell is possibly playing somewhere else next year, because Cleveland's looking at the bottom line and the P&L and saying, I don't know how we're going to make it work with Odell and still be able to field a team that is going to be as competitive as we were last year.
Yeah, it's like history repeating itself, right? For different reasons, of course. Here in New York, it was maybe Odell's doing too much. Let's go ahead and trade him. And now you mentioned all those reasons, the money, them having Jarvis Landry, and them playing good football without him. And I just feel like with the writing being on the wall, this is my perspective from the outside in. I feel like Odell could move on. I know the Cleveland Browns have proved with the way that they won games and making it to the playoffs that they can move on without Odell. And teams need him. And regardless of what you think about him, He still can play. You look at some of his playmaking ability last year. He still is as fast as strong, and he will be this upcoming season. It really is seductive. And he still has that rock star vibe. Like, I don't care what you say. I don't care if he goes to the Jags. People will line up to go buy a Beckham Jr. Jag jersey because he's a rock star.
There's a lot of depth, though, at free agent. Like,
there are, and there's a lot of.
I don't know if I'd rather call Juju
because he's going to be $15 million no matter what.
$15 million's a lot of money when there's a good class.
If you're the Jets, you have the 23rd overall pick.
Yeah.
All right. Would you trade the 23rd overall pick for Odell Beckham at $15 million?
No, I don't want him back in New York City.
I don't think the Jets.
That's toxic.
I think the Jets.
Another team, maybe.
I think the Jets would rather go with a young guy who they could.
Juju or Odell?
If I'm looking at the Jets and I have that pick, I'd rather keep that pick and bring something in homegrown versus bringing in a guy down to pay a ton of money.
Well, you're saying calls are coming. Are people clamoring for Odell Beckham?
I don't know. I would make calls.
Yeah.
I think you can get him.
It's expensive.
It's expensive.
A lot. He's never won anything. You know, I mean, it's not a slam dunk. He's really talented, but we've talked about that for years.
I definitely believe the phone calls are open for Cleveland, and this is just me. Like I said, looking from the outside in. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And my gut says that Odell Beckham might have a different jersey this upcoming season. For me, I'm looking at Juju Smith-Schuster. We've been talking about him a ton over the past couple of weeks. I believe you even brought up the Jets at one point. I think you said the Ravens. I mentioned him going to a place like the Raiders.
Yeah.
Juju Smith-Schuster is a forgotten pillar on that offense. And I know you're saying, what? He dances on the logos. He's doing the TikToks using the words like pillar. Yeah. He was a foundation. He was something that this team leaned on. That's what I mean by pillar. 97 catches, that's a guy you lean on. A dude that gives you 32 third downs, that's a dude you lean on. A guy that you can play outside, inside, that can be dominant, not just in the pass game, but also in the running game. That's who you lean on. When you look at his numbers, he had more receptions and receiving yards than Chris Godwin, who we're clamoring over. Shout out to Chris Godwin, he's unbelievable. Kenny Gallaudet, who you know that I love, being a Detroit Lion. And Will Fuller, who is just so splashy that you want to sign him because of the blinding speed. And all of those guys are older than Juju Smith-Schuster. So if you're looking back and you're a team saying, all right, I could either go spend some money on some young draft pick and bring him in and hope that he's pretty good, or you could say, I could bring in a guy that can give me damn near 100 catches and also doesn't really care about being the number one dude. Does he care about his social media following? Cool. But he's not in the locker room causing fights because he wants the ball more. He is the ultimate teammate. I feel like the Juju Smith-Schuster sweepstakes, once free agency opens up, there's going to be more teams sitting there knocking on his door and picking up the phone to call his agent because Juju Smith-Schuster is a guy that can immediately come in and make your wide receiver that much better.
No brainer. Do you have a destination spot for him?
I just mentioned the Raiders. Strager said the Jets at one point. Kyle, I like the Ravens. That's that inner division. There's a ton of teams that can use him.
Where he can fit. I just want to see the Ravens get a wide receiver. That's why I'm asking, because it's the no-brainer. You need a wideout. Give Lamar somebody that he, throws the ball in a general vicinity, and somebody can go up and get it out of all of them. Out of Chris Godwin, Allen Robinson. I think Kenny Gallaudet would be on my wish list. Are they going to make a move at wide receiver? Because some of the things I'm reading say that they're not going to make a big splash at that position. They need a wide receiver. It's the easiest thing to call with free agency for me.
I think they're definitely in the market. The three names you mentioned, the issue is all these free agents, with the exception of Juju, who the Steelers have pretty much said are going to be free agents.
Tag.
Gallaudet is actually an interesting one. So everyone thought he was going to be tagged. We're now 24 hours. There's a chance Kenny Galladay's not tagged.
Go to Baltimore.
And that he be a free agent. But I think Godwin, Allen Robinson, I'd be shocked if those guys weren't. So what's a big splash for Baltimore? In years past,
Gallaudet.
They've drafted the Marquise Browns.
That speed, that size, let's go.
Yeah.
You think Juju's still a pillar?
Like
if you're a fan base and you find out we signed Juju to be our number one, it's huge money, he's gonna be our guy. Are you like, oh man, like something that there's nothing wrong with just being a really good player. I think we're learning that.
You might say to yourself, Juju, the dude that was dancing on logos and got rocked by the Cincinnati Bengals.
And there is a lot of BS that comes with it. A lot of people don't like that stuff.
And Juju, the one with the curly hair and the colors and fighting with the tiger and taking blows from Garcia. Juju, the one that does the Twitch streaming, and it seems like he's more concerned with social media and playing video games. Juju, but then the moment they stop all that and they pick up the paper and they're like, Juju, 97 catches.
So how come the Steelers aren't bringing him back? Why are the Steelers the first team to say, okay, enjoy free agency? Well, doesn't that tell you something?
It just tells you that it's ran its course, you know? And I think a couple of the moves that he made, it rubbed people the wrong way. And not only that, let's just be realistic as well. You got Chase Claypool, who was phenomenal. Deontay Johnson, who's a splash guy. And then you have James Washington. So it's not like Juju is the only guy there and they're letting him go. They're letting him go because you have cheaper options already on the roster.
But they wouldn't let him go if he was a top-tier wide receiver, would they? Is Chase Claypool a number one bona fide wide? The kind of receiver I'm saying that Baltimore needs, that top-tier guy to get that team to the next level, is Juju that? Because Juju, to me, wouldn't be a huge splash in Baltimore.
I'm telling you guys this. 97 catches means you are a number one wide receiver on anybody's roster. You cannot bat your eye at 97 catches and say, I don't know if he's legit. So the fact that they're letting him go, that means that they have a solid roster. I'm talking about the Steelers. I'm telling you, the Juju sweepstakes is going to start.
Okay.
You know who isn't adding a top-tier wide receiver?
Who's that?
The Buffalo Bills.
Last year they did.
They did, and it worked out pretty well for them,
a good one.
didn't it?